agenda for Architectural Board of Review for September 19th, and start with our roll call, please.
Thank you, Chair Moore. I will take the roll call. Chair Moore,
Yes.
Vice Chair Six,
Here.
Board Member Anderson, here. Board Member Black,
Here.
Board Member Noon,
Here.
Board Member Olson,
Yes.
Board Member Whalen.
Here.
Perfect. We have a quorum. Thank you.
Thank you. And then we can open public comment, if we may.
Of course. Let's see. I don't have anyone participating via Zoom. I also don't have any speaker slips, and we did not receive any public comment for general business. Back to you.
Well, all right, then we can close public comment and go on to approval of the minutes for September 6th, please.
So moved.
No, we can go straight to the motion. So,
Move accept as presented.
Under discussion?
yes, go ahead.
So, could we go to page 4? Under, what is that? Item 2, the first motion, we have a duplicate of careful study, so I would suggest that we go, the planting material along the 3-foot planter should be carefully, should be studied carefully to provide maximum screening, I would suggest we add. And then, Chair Moore, I think that under motion for, under page 6, what is that? Item 5 or whatever. Can you assume that vary, under the motion number 2C, vary the detailing of the plaster work, may I suggest such as windowsills, copings, etc.? That's what you meant, is correct?
I think that was the intent, but, I mean, what did we say on the video at that point?
I think we simply said plasterwork. It's just unclear.
Yeah.
We can look back at the video and clarify, but if you do want to make that addition today and it coincides with what was said, we can add it in, but if it doesn't,
Okay, let's do
we
that.
can omit it.
And then I would suggest on H, study integrating the seismic brace or support at the walkways above entry, potentially creating more symmetry.
Repair. Yeah, that, again, that was the intent, repair and a
Symmetry.
more symmetrical arrangement.
Yes.
Yep.
You want
Yeah,
to be
if we,
accurate to pair and more symmetrical arrangement
if,
to keep the record intact.
anything else?
Nope.
Okay, let's take a vote.
Did we have a second?
Yep.
Thank you, Chair Moore. I'll go ahead and take the roll call vote. Chair Moore,
Yes.
Vice Chair Six,
Yes.
Board Member Anderson, yes. Board Member Black,
Yes.
Board Member Noon,
Yes.
Board Member Olson,
Yes.
Board Member Whalen.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, and then the consent calendar for the 12th.
Thank you, Chair Moore. We had item A, 500 James Fowler Road. This was a proposal to designate a new service area annual relief closer to the main terminal, and it was continued indefinitely to study some other additional locations and fencing options. And that was the only item on the September 12th minutes. Thank you.
Move accept as presented. Second.
Seconded by Mr. Black, any discussion? Nope. Let's vote.
Thank you, Chair Moore. I'll take the roll call vote. Chair Moore,
Yes.
Vice Chair Six,
Yes.
Board Member Anderson, yes. Board Member Black,
Yes.
Board Member Noon,
Yes.
Board Member Olson,
Yes.
Board Member Whalen.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
All right, any announcements, et cetera, from staff?
Staff has an announcement for design review advisory boards, single-family design board, architectural board of review, historic landmarks commission, and sign committee. We have a recruitment period that is opened up, and the city is now accepting applications online. And applicants have to be residents of the Santa Barbara County, and the deadline to submit is October 10th at 5 p.m. And if you are to resign, I want to say it is September 21st. It would be the resignation period, so you would need to submit to us a letter or an email letting us know that you wish to resign. So, and that again is by the 21st of September. And all new applicants to submit is October 10th.
And
Okay.
just to clarify that, if there's anyone who's interested, we would need to, well, the process is a little bit different this year in that it's an online application through the city clerk's office, that we have all the information if anybody's interested, and we followed up with specific ABR board members for anyone who has a term coming up. So it's much easier. If there is interest, they do still have to go to city council for a 2 to 3 minute interview. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
In Mr. Olson's case, can you be both on the ABR and the single design board?
Are you volunteering, Mr. Olson?
So kind of you, Mr. Sims.
And I don't know if that's possible or not. Is it possible to have somebody on several design boards?
To be on several different, so I know that the question has come up before. You would have to be, in your application, you have to be very specific. So I know that there was an HLC member who was also interested in serving on SFDB, and they never, like, you can do it, and the guidelines say it's okay. Generally, it's not, we don't suggest that it happens very often, because we try to provide the opportunity for more people, but there is a way, and the guidelines allow it. So, and if someone has that time too, that's a lot of public meetings.
Right. Maybe Mr. Olson's looking for something else to do.
I'm looking for less.
Okay, fair enough. Any future agenda items, appeals? Okay. Any subcommittee reports? Nope. All right, well, then we can move on to item number 1, which is 3707 State Street. Come on up. So this is a continued item for project design approval and final approval. This is the Chick-fil-A restaurant proposes to convert the existing 1-lane drive-through to a new 2-lane drive-through for an existing service window. The project includes new ordering stations, menu boards with small canopies, widening the entrance driveway to 3 lanes for improved site access, reconfiguring this existing parking lot and removal of 15 parking spaces, new bike racks, new stormwater treatment system, and other site improvements. Landscaping requires consideration by the ABR of an alternative landscape design. PDA and final approval is requested. Project requires compliance with the project compatibility findings, urban design guidelines, and the Upper State Street area design guidelines. And we last saw you May 31st of this year. Welcome back. If we could have our motion from the previous.
And if you just hit the push button, yeah, if you, there you go.
There it goes.
Thank you.
Okay.
And Chair Moore, the previous motion is up on the board. Let me just get there.
Okay, that's short and sweet. So, board finds that the project is ready for project design approval at the next meeting. And other than that, we're all good. Okay. You can introduce yourself and
Perfect.
take us through.
Perfect. Well, good afternoon, Chair Moore, and members of the board. My name is Jennifer Daw, and I am the West Region Senior Real Estate Representative for Chick-fil-A. My team of consultants, architects, is this not up?
I'm part of the interruption to the applicant. We just want to get this
Oh.
out of this particular
That's okay.
presentation mode so that it's full screen for the board. Apologies.
So sorry.
That's okay. My team of consultants, architects, engineers, and landscape architects are all here this afternoon to address any technical questions. But first, I would like to recap our project from the May 2nd and May 31st meeting, as we are here today seeking ABR project design and final approval. We do believe the plans presented address all comments. So to familiarize yourself with the site, obviously this is the aerial view, which shows the
I'm
existing.
sorry, just sorry to interrupt you. So, we're all very familiar with the site and the project. So,
Perfect.
if we could moving forward, any changes that have been made from the previous meeting, we don't need to start from zero.
Perfect.
It'll help us stay on track.
I can
time-wise
do
as well.
that, not a problem.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. Yep. Do you want me to? Yeah. Okay, so perfect. Obviously, so since the events, since the last ABR meeting on June 7th, Chick-fil-A and the City Council entered into agreement to implement the traffic mitigation measures, including the site improvements. In July, our team with an arborist looked at the site and further developed a plan. At the same time in July, some plans were made, some corrections were made to the plans, just to make sure that everything was consistent, which was out in the field. In August, we submitted the plans to the city, and we received and addressed plan check corrections. On September 13th, the city's Creek Division also approved the civil plans, as well as on September 14th, planning deemed the application complete. So really, next step is that we are just here asking for final project approval of our design, and I'm here to answer any questions that you may have.
Great. I would suggest that we do flip to the site plan
Sure.
and we take a quick look. And any of those changes that you,
Out of here real quick so I can. That's okay. Yeah. No problem. All right. Okay. Okay.
yeah, if you could just show us the current site plan as it stands now, and any of those plan check comments that we would be interested in seeing any
These are the
changes.
landscape plan.
Great.
The best. Sorry, it's kind of moving slow.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And while I do that, I'm actually going to have our landscape architect, Nicole Hurrian, come up and help discuss the changes made on the trees.
Great.
There you go.
Good afternoon, everybody. Okay, so did you just want me to jump into it, or?
Yeah.
Okay. Currently, we are adding additional oak trees to the site. I don't know, last time we were here, we talked about adding planter areas. We added a planter over to the plan right side of the plan, finger in the middle over to the right there, which added another shade tree, because I know that was a big concern for everybody. So we broke up the parking spaces and added additional oak tree, as well as adding another oak tree down from that same area. Let's see, we have a new cassia tree right at the building where that dimension line you were just at it originally, right there. And then we also are relocating Platanus sycamore over by the transformer area. Right there, yes. And so those are the additional trees that we added.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Any other changes to the menu boards or anything
No,
like
the
that?
menu boards stay
All the same.
the same with the dapper tan color to match the building.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'm sure we'll have a few questions, but we can open public comment at this time. Do we have anyone that would like to speak?
Thank you, Chair Moore. I do not have anyone attending virtually via Zoom, and I do not have any public speaker slips, and we did not receive any written correspondence for this item. Thank you. Back to you.
Okay, thank you. We'll close public comment and go to questions. Start down here, Ms. Anderson.
Sure. Do you have a material board that you can just show us one last time for final? And any light fixture specs?
Just pass the material board. Here's your color material boards. So obviously the dapper tan, the stucco, and the roof and the concrete all remain the same. And as for lighting, I believe the lighting is consistent with what is already there. We're not touching any of the lighting.
Those are my questions.
Okay. Mr. Six?
Yes, thank you, Chair Moore. The order boards and the small shade screens
This one?
are located same exact, no change from last time, correct?
The menu board?
Yes.
Yes, it's in the exact same place from previous.
Both of them,
Yeah.
yes. And did you add this T-bar for the clearance in front of them? There was a,
This-
if we go to the site, is that the T-bar that,
That's being painted, correct.
and that's in front of, before the car approaches the menu board,
That is
correct?
correct.
And those were there before, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any questions down here? Mr. Black?
Quick question. I noticed on the landscape plan, maybe even on the site plan as well, but the ground sign out at State Street isn't really shown on your plans, and I was just curious as to, it's just an oversight. I mostly have, as it concerns the landscape around it, I just kind of looked at the plant material that you'd selected in that vicinity. I think it's lavender heterophylla, if I'm not mistaken, so I was just kind of concerned that that gets pretty tall and you don't have the sign shown there, so are you comfortable with?
So, sorry.
Yeah, I'm going to.
Maybe it might have been turned off, but yeah, I know around the signing, we actually added, I'm pretty sure, some senecio kind of below. So I have like shorter planting in front, so it won't be blocking the signage.
Can you show me on the landscape plan?
Yeah.
Please? Does that senecio show up on that plan?
Right here, Nicole?
Yeah,
Oh, I see, okay.
yeah.
Got it. Okay, that answers my question, thank you.
Any other questions down here? Mr. Noon?
No question.
Mr. Olson? Mr. Whalen? No? Okay, let's go to comments. Who would like to start? Anybody? Vice Chair Six?
Yeah, I think it's ready for final approval as submitted.
Okay, anyone disagree or have other comments?
I agree.
Anyone else? No? Mr. Black, any last thoughts?
The only comment I had was, I was just looking at, as I always do, looking at the sizes of the plant materials. I was wondering whether you'd be open to upsizing the agaves from 5 gallon to 15. I just think you're going to get a little more mass and a little more presence, particularly out at State Street. So.
I agree. Yes.
Good, thank you.
Okay. Would you like to make that motion as a final approval with that note?
Yeah, so I'll make a motion for project design approval and final approval with the following comment that the agaves, both varieties that are shown on the planting plan, be upsized from 5 gallon to 15 gallon. And as far as the project compatibility, we find that the project is consistent with the design guidelines applicable to the location of the project in the city, and that it is compatible with architectural character of the city and neighborhood. And what's being proposed is the appropriate size, bulk, and scale. And I don't believe there are any historic landmarks, so that's does not apply. And as does public views of oceans and mountains does not apply here as well. And the use of open space and landscaping does include an appropriate amount of both.
Second. Thank you. Seconded by Olson. Any discussion? No? Okay, let's vote.
Thank you, Chair Moore. I will take the roll call vote. Chair Moore?
Yes.
Vice Chair Six?
Yes.
Board Member Anderson?
Yes.
Board Member Black?
Yes.
Board Member Noon?
Yes.
Board Member Olson?
Yes.
Board Member Whalen?
I am going to abstain as I missed the first meeting, and while I followed the videos and the minutes, I don't feel qualified to vote on this item.
Okay, thank you.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
And Mr. Chair, if you could announce the appeal, the 10-day appeal.
And there is a 10-day appeal period, and instructions for that process can be seen on your screen right now.
Chair Moore, to the rest of the board, for item number 2, the earliest we could start would be 3:25, so we can recess until then, if you so wish.
Let's do that. Thank you.
Till 3:25 p.m. Thank you.
adjourn. And,
So,
Mr. Newton?
yeah, Chair Moore, I have to abstain. I have a conflict. This project is from my office.
Okay, thank you. All right, okay, if you're ready, item number 2, thank you for being a little early. This is 220 North Lacumba Road, and is a continued item for concept review. Project consists of demolition of all existing commercial buildings on site and construction of a new 48-unit multifamily residential development, including a community room, laundry, and lobby. All units would be deed restricted to low and very low income tenants with ratios to be determined. As a 100% affordable development under state density bonus program, unlimited density is allowable along with exceeding the 45-foot height limit in the zone. The project is proposed at a density of 38.71 units per acre with a maximum height of approximately 53 feet. 71 parking spaces, including 10 designated for guest parking, are proposed. A partially subterranean garage is proposed for residential parking with 3 stories of residential development above the garage. No final appealable decision will be made at this hearing. Project will require compliance with the project compatibility findings, the urban design, and the Upper State Street Area Design Guidelines. And we last saw you July 25th. Welcome back. And how do you, is this a in-progress review, or what is the next steps for the project before we jump into it?
I think they're just coming back for a concept review. The next step would be determined to be complete, and then return for project design approval. So I think they're just coming back in as, and I'll let the applicant speak to that as well. So.
Okay. Can we have our, oh, beat me to it, motion is there. Okay. Applicant shall study the following items: study ways of mitigating the size and scale of the proposed podium, particularly along Lacumba. Pay attention to the northwest corner along Lacumba Road. Study ways of reducing the apparent mass and or provides additional screening. Provide 2 sets of elevations, one with landscape and options, provide options for the podium railing and photos of the existing condition of the east property line. Okay?
Great, thank you. Christine Perone with the Cornell Collective, the architect.
And Courtney Miller, CJMLA, landscape architect.
And thank you, Mr. Chair. And it's Courtney's birthday today.
I thought about bringing cupcakes, but sorry, didn't happen.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. So glad to be spending it with all of you.
Oh, great, thanks. I think you've seen this a number of times, and we had a few comments that we thought it was, one, worthwhile to come back for the architecture, but also to take a deeper dive into the landscape architecture. So that's going to be our goals for today. We are coming very close to being deemed complete, so we would be looking after this hearing to likely be coming back for a PDA. I'm going to go ahead and just move forward here to, I think we don't need to re-review, right? To the changes that we made, addressing some of the size and scale along. Oops. Particularly around Lacumba. And if you remember before, this section here was the full podium height. It was over a stair that came down, so we took advantage of that stair to drop roofs that step up, so eroding down that corner. And this had been a 2-story element, so we dropped that down to a 1-story element. I think that was a part of the original design. And I think that was, you'll see some added, just detailing information, more developed grills, steel grills in the openings. And Courtney and her team have taken a much closer look at the planters and refined that, and she'll show that to you with the landscape work that she's done. I know there was one comment about bringing the red siding the entire way down to the ground, but we kind of split the difference. We brought it down to the headers, and I have some images, reference images, as this is traditionally how it would have been done. And then there was a stone base. And the other comment was asking for development of the railing. And if we zoom in, especially here, oh, it's It's more of kind of a Victorian picket in details here, while other places are just more of a standard picket. Sorry, that's terrible resolution. I don't know how that happened, sorry. But I think you get the concept. Is we're starting to explore that, and I think it's something that's definitely in progress, and we'll be coming back here many times as we refine that. But I felt in looking at this that there was something unifying about it being the same and all white. I brought it to you today with some white and some in brown, but I think that we'll come to the right conclusion as we move the project forward for the railing. How do you zoom out all the way?
You can either control 0 would take you back to full screen.
Oh, great. Good. And so here is that other side of that corner where you can see we've stepped roofs up to that element. And that, by the way, that 53 feet is incorrect. I think this is our tallest element here at 48 feet. And this is what worked out with kind of a nice added articulation here on the north side, where this became that third, that unit that we moved from the corner. We kind of internalized that, and I think added some interest to this architecture here. I think that was a lot of the changes that we made. You'll see some of it, again, some of the fencing has changed, the railings have changed around the perimeter. And we also started looking at some color variation now that we're starting to move forward into more refinement. So a lot of the windows and doors are white, but here you see it's a blue color. So I think that's what, we're still trying to keep a constrained palette. But the rule was that we'd have some in blue and some in white, as we did originally. And then just modest changes here that are, again, represented in the 3D elevations that reflect some of those changes that we just made. And you can see here more of the brown color for the railing, and then we turn to a white here. And then here in the corner, as well as a kind of a simplified railing design. And I think that's a lot of the architectural changes addressing your comments. So I think Courtney had a lot more.
Okay. 9 minutes.
Okay, so as Christine mentioned, the majority of the changes were on the landscape side. So I wanted to thank the board for your attention to these 3 trees at the last hearing. We did take another look at that and were able to keep them. So I'm really happy to report that. And basically we just reconfigured both the kind of the podium wall planter configuration in this area in order to do that. So all 3 of those are podocarpus, and they have quite a nice canopy that'll be a really nice transition on the corner there. Otherwise, we've further clarified and brought more information about the existing hedge along the east property line. So you can see it kind of spans between the property line, which is here, and then an existing low retaining wall here. And it does run the entire length, pretty much, of the property. And we have a series of photos here I can kind of walk you through. The height ranges from 9 up to, I think, 12 feet or more. This is the low retaining wall that will be existing to remain, and then the hedge beyond it. So this is looking at the north east corner of the property. So this is the upper corner of our property, and then, beyond the hedge is our neighbor, which is a 1-story building. Standing kind of in the same place, looking back towards the south, and then walking along the south You can kind of see it there and, you know, taller than the hedge trimmer. And then as you get closer to the corner, there's an existing trash enclosure that's sort of surrounded by a collection of things. There's some trees in there and kind of various taller shrubs. Those will need to come out as it's right where, I mean, we obviously have to remove the trash enclosure, but that's right where our community vegetable garden will be on this corner. So we did try to get access onto this property and couldn't, but this is kind of the best we could do. This is that neighboring building, and then the hedge actually goes right up to the eave on their side. So this is that corner where the existing bit is that we're removing. Okay. And I'll just show you those trees again. So these are the podocarpus that we'll be protecting. So 1, 2, and then I think it's this one, 3. So they really will wrap, you know, continue to wrap that corner. Might have to do some pruning in the back. Okay, and then on the landscape plan, we basically, you know, added more detail. We looked at a number of things. We did a more defined planting plan along North La Cumbre. So I'll walk you through in plan and then elevation as well, and hopefully we have enough time. So starting on the north side, we're pretty constrained here. We have overhead power lines that run this direction, and this is also where our transformer and most of our utilities come onto the property. So we were able, thankfully, to squeeze one tree here. It's a Callistemon viminalis. That's a power line friendly tree. So we have that there in the ground. And then as you move south, as Christine said, we went through and basically simplified the planter layout. So before there were a lot more kind of jigs and jogs and different levels, and we felt like it could definitely use some simplification, and then kind of started with where do the tree massings want to be, and then let the planters follow that. So that was the approach. So starting here, the yellow symbol is a sycamore. And then next to that, we have a group of citrus trees. And then beyond that, we have some layering here. So 2 Tristania at the back, and then 3 Punica, that's pomegranate, in the front. And then another thing we did here, just looking at the streetscape as a whole, is we have 3 existing jacarandas that are located just right behind the sidewalk. So we thought it would be really beautiful to continue that. And so we've added 2 jacarandas here. And as you may recall, you know, it's a curb adjacent sidewalk here, so these are effectively our street trees, since there's no parkway. And we're lucky too that we do have such, you know, a big, nice, healthy buffer here to get all this layered screening in. So then moving on down, we have another pomegranate. And then these 2 symbols are arbutus trees, so those will be multis, a little bit bushier. And then moving down, these are our 2 existing jacarandas. We have a couple more pomegranates here and a raised planter that's kind of closer to the podium level. Another arbutus here, and then 2 more Tristania here. So there's some really nice balance that's going on with the tree layout, and I can show you that in the elevation. Below that, we have kind of, again, layered grasses, larger swaths of things like salvias, contrapetalum, muhlenbergia, and then some taller things maybe like toyon, where we need a lot more height in the background. And we wanted to get some flowering things in there like the salvia to attract the bees to the fruit trees. And then also vines up on the building. So I'll just flip and show you the elevation too. So this is again that west corner. So this is our Callistemon, Sycamore, and then down the line. We felt like it would be important to get vines up onto the building in some of these places where we had less opportunity for trees. So it's, and calling attention to the entries into the building. So I think we had, remind myself, the Parthenocissus is what I had in mind for that, something that's self-clinging but not so invasive like the ficus. And then, you can see these are the arbutus up in a raised planter here. And then, punica in the back. This is that one arbutus. And then moving along down. I think we might use something like Echium at the corner and then also at the pedestrian entry into the building. And these would be the existing podocarpus, these two, and then one is sort of beyond. And then here we're lucky, it switches to on grade up top, so we were able to get some trees in the upper level along this elevation as well. Okay. And then otherwise we did take a closer look at the courtyard design and the material selections for all the different hardscape areas. So we're proposing concrete, just kind of trying to keep things simple, cost effective, and then, using materials that would be appropriate along with the architectural style. Felt like natural gray concrete is just, honest and a really good choice. But then we wanted to introduce a stain to achieve kind of the patterning that we've indicated here. And so we have those indicated here, Davis stain. And then for the parking and then pedestrian entry, we were looking at using just a standard 4x8 paver, the HydroFlow, which the paver itself is permeable, so no gravel kind of rolling around. And then we did simplify the hardscape patterning. We're still going to continue to develop that, but we kind of pulled the circular shapes away from where we have corridors. And like I said, that'll continue to be refined as we go along. And the intent with these spaces is that they are flexible. We wanted to provide planters that are tall enough to support, larger trees, but not too tall so that it feels completely, imposing. But these are, front doors into the units. So we wanted to have this space feel as separate as it can from, somebody's front door. And so for the planter heights, we were thinking of 36 inches. We've done a lot of these, and we could get up to 42, but that I think is too high for a space of this scale. So I think that's what we have for today, unless Christine had anything else to add. Okay, that concludes our presentation.
Okay, thank you. With that, we can open public comment. Do we have anyone with us?
Thank you, Chair Moore. As of right now, no, I do not have anyone attending via Zoom. I also do not have any speaker slips, and we did not receive any written correspondence on this item.
Okay, thank you. We'll close public comment and go to questions. Start down here, Mr. Whalen.
Sure, thank you, Chair Moore. Ms. Perron, did you, you mentioned that you couldn't get on the neighboring parcel. Did you have any conversations with them about the project?
If I could ask the applicant to come join us, we have a third microphone that you can use.
May you just state your name for the record as well? Thank you.
Skip Szymanski with the Housing Authority, City of Santa Barbara. Yes, we have reached out to all of the neighbors in the immediate area. This particular neighbor, the operator of the facility that's there, has not given us any feedback.
All right. And then, Ms. Miller, You showed us a photo of that had that low stone wall. Could you show us on the plan where you took that photo? I couldn't quite orient myself.
Are you thinking of
That
these?
photo on the far right, no.
Okay.
It had the low stone wall with the palm tree. Where
This.
were you standing when you took that photo?
Okay, yes, so we're standing on Via Lucero, looking back at the southeast
So
corner.
you're looking
we're
down the property line, sort of.
standing about here, looking this direction. So that stone wall, I don't know if you can see this little bit, is there.
Very good. That's quite helpful. Let's see. And Ms. Peroni, what the relocated unit that now becomes a feature on that north elevation, does that exceed any of the height limitations of the site? I saw some dotted lines.
Because we're 100% affordable, we are allowed to exceed the 45-foot height limit, and that's what you'll see there. I think it was the dimension I pulled up was 48 feet there at that highest point.
Very good. And my last question, again for Ms. Miller, you mentioned that the concrete in the interior was going to be stained, but you showed us a Davis sample. Did you mean a tint or a stain?
A stain, a Davis brand stain.
All right, thank you. Those are all my questions. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Olson, any questions?
Yes, Mr. Saminsky, you said you talked to most all of the neighbors, and was there any comment at all from your neighbors?
Yes, we reached out to the neighbors in the vicinity. We did get some comments about parking impacts, and we explained what we would be providing on site. We had one neighbor that initially was not pleased with the barn look that we were adopting, but then that person came back and said, hit it out of the park, we love it. Other than that, most of the comments or input that we have gotten have been from the tenants, so nothing design-wise, but so no, nothing really significant. There was a brief conversation about the location of the entry, the driveway, and we accommodated that. We feel we came up with a good solution.
So the reason I ask the question is this project seems to me to be very friendly, neighborhood friendly. And so I'm not a neighbor, and so that's kind of a dangerous thing to say. That might bring out some of the neighbors, so I was interested in what Mr. Samansky said, because this does seem neighborhood friendly to me in many respects. Oh, and I have a real question. What is the material of the picket fence?
This would be wood. Wood and possibly metal pickets. We haven't gotten into that. I think when we're around the perimeter, when it's a main entry, we'd probably do upgraded material. But I think for long-term maintenance with the Housing Authority, I think internally we might be using a metal railing. We haven't had that discussion. Yeah.
Those are all my questions. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Mr. Black?
That central courtyard, Courtney, you talked about the planter walls being maybe in the neighborhood of 36 inches. What trees are you proposing for that location?
Thank you. We have Arbutus is the multi-trunk here, and then I believe it's Tristania for the other.
Tristania?
Yep.
Like Conferta?
Mm-hmm.
I guess my question is, so are you comfortable with a tree that gets 40 feet high and a planter that's only 36 inches deep?
I don't think that it will grow to its mature size
Because
in
of
the
that.
constrained environment. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've used those before in these courtyards. I think we chose these because they work well in the shade or sun.
Okay. Let's see, my other question was, I think there are arbutuses out there.
These two?
La Cumbre, yeah. Are you concerned about, I always have this sort of a pet peeve with me, but a tree with a big canopy and then you plant another tree with another canopy under it? Because those jacarandas are going to are big, at least the existing ones are. Are you concerned at all about, intersecting canopies at all, or is that, maybe that's what you're going for, but?
I think, the jacaranda there is already quite large and mature.
Yep.
So, we kind of saw these as remaining pretty small as well. Them being the multi, they do say they get quite large over time, but
Yes.
that's something we can look at if it's
Yeah.
a comment.
Well, I know where I live on the west side, they have them as a street tree, and they're probably 25 feet high, so, I mean,
Yeah.
they're big, but they're old too, of course, but maybe the multis would
Yeah, I
would
mean,
work out
this,
better.
thank you. This whole, study was really, we're trying to provide enough screening, but also, deal with these real world maintenance concerns as well. So another thing I've thought about with these on the mid-level planters is that those branches are going to be in the podium level patios as well over time. As they grow up, it'll be
Sure.
less of a concern, but I think it's just more for us to think through as we develop it. Maybe those switch to a smaller, more like something like the punica, so it's not getting so tall over time.
The pomegranate, you're anticipating being a large shrub, small tree kind of?
Yeah.
Okay. Just in passing, because I heard you mention Echium, is that to the lower right? Is that where you're pointing at, or there?
Here and here.
How large is the planter in which they're planted?
Those would be directly in the ground.
No, but how wide is the planter? I can't tell.
Oh,
Because they get to be pretty good size.
those get very large over time. I mean, we have, I don't know what dimension that is, 10 feet.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot of room, so.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Vice Chair Six?
Chair Moore, thank you. So, Ms. Perone, you took off the northwest corner unit and put it somewhere else?
That's correct.
And where was that, somewhere else?
So it's gone from there.
Yes,
Thanks, Courtney. Yeah, let me try.
thank you very much.
And you can move the mouse to your side. It's a little awkward to be on the left, but it reaches.
That's good, thanks. So it had been on the second floor here. And so now you can see it's one-story roof. And so it moved here, which was about the last location available to us with this
Okay.
design.
And then that elevation, oh, we saw it, didn't we?
Yeah.
But just to review it. I get it, I see it,
You see it?
yeah, great. Great, okay, and in your presentation, you mentioned the railings changing colors. Were you negative toward that, or what's your desire?
I was interested in studying it. It was some comments that from the last time we were here. But especially on this La Cumbre elevation, when I look at it, it just feels to me to be a little forced. Like on one side it's white, and on the other side it's brown. And I think maybe a unifying color might still be the better approach.
Throughout the whole project, all white?
I think
what you're
so.
thinking?
I think that's where I'm headed. But I don't feel. I would be open still. I'm still trying to figure out how that looks best.
But if they were all white, but yet they're different designs, correct? One's a picket look, and the upper floors is more simple railing, correct?
Some are pickets, and some are and some are a simple railing with a top rail. If that's
Okay.
what you mean.
Yeah, all right.
We're a little limited. It would have been great to do something horizontal, but there's children on site. I just wouldn't go there. So I
Understand.
think that we needed to stick with vertical pickets of some sort.
And last question, would you consider a darker color for the podium, being that it's behind so many vines and bushes and so forth that could possibly even recede more.
Oh, I agree with that, yeah.
All right, thank you. That's my questions.
Ms. Anderson?
If we could zoom into the north elevation, the bottom. I was just curious if you studied, I like how you stepped the roof, and I was just curious if you studied making it flat and maybe doing planters costs in mind, but planters on top instead of a shed roof.
We didn't look at that. We could. We definitely could.
Okay. And then, no, I think the rest are comments, so that was it.
Okay. If we could stay right there.
Oh, sorry.
So with your new unit location, you turned the gable end towards us. Did you study having that ridge line be parallel and just stepping up? I don't think you've done that on the La Cumbre side.
I started there, and because that was always kind of how I felt this would be, but it makes that ridge line much taller because it's much deeper in that direction. So I started there, and I thought, I just can't go that tall, and so by turning it and having a gable, I was able to kind of keep that in scale.
Would you consider changing the slope of that roof to mitigate that ridge height?
It's already down pretty low for a farmhouse look, but we could definitely would be open to it.
Just adding some, funkiness to sort of that farmhouse feel that was
Sure.
added on at some point,
Sure.
just as a thought.
It is even because it's, I think, 35 feet deep. So it even at a lower pitch, let's say it this way. I'll look at it. If it gets taller than this, I think would we all agree that mitigating the height is a good approach?
Yeah, potentially,
Yeah.
And then while we're here, so about where is the adjacent house relative to this mass here?
It's around here.
Okay. And do you have photos of that?
Mm-hmm. Here I'm kind of walking up this is walking up the street when there's the red barn, and then here's that little house, and here's the existing site. Here, I can zoom in. There's the bungalow, and then here's that existing medical office building.
And your structure essentially starts on the other side of those power lines, right?
Yeah, a little bit back from those, yeah. Those are centered to a 10-foot easement. We're at the back of an easement.
Can you zoom in on the aerial on that little zone?
So here's the bungalow, and then this canopy, this dense canopy, does have the power lines going through, and then here's that existing. This is a 2-story with a kind of an understory garage here.
Okay. I noticed you put the solar ordinance measurements on there. Is that applicable in this case because it's next to a residential zone?
We are actually asking for one of our concessions from state density bonus to be allowed to go into that.
Okay.
You can see that most of it is beneath the ordinance, but it seemed to make sense for us to locate the 3-story back there.
Depending on where you move the solar ordinance along that property line, though, obviously, right?
It is in here, and it's defined with the existing grade.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a section or something here that shows it. Which is the highest point of contact, and when you have a odd grade like that, that becomes a little strange. But you can see mostly we're under it or just barely clipping it, and it's just this piece.
Okay. Then on the La Cumbra elevation, just a question about go there.
Oh, the trees one or the no trees one?
No trees for now. So on the, I guess the kind of darker of the stucco areas, those balconies, yep, right there. Is that, so is the intent that is that stucco, first of all?
It is shown as a siding. It'll
Oh,
be
it
a
is.
cementitious siding.
Okay, so is the intent that the balconies will just be flush with the face of the building, or is there the intent that there will be some sort of a breakdown of that material?
I think that the balconies will be flush, just inboard of the face of that building. I think I might, as we get deeper into this, is study that what feels like a mid post, and try to. I think it ultimately integrate that into one expression.
Okay, and then the same on the little corner balcony to the right. Is it a corner, or is that just a short return there with that little section of wall?
It's a little section of wall there. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And again, whether that ends up being expressed as a post or clad, that's something we'll be getting into.
Okay, great. Any other questions?
Yes, Chair
Yes,
Moore,
go
I
ahead.
forgot to ask about, on the same elevation, do you anticipate some sort of security grate at the garage opening?
Yes, yeah.
We can expect to see that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, if that's all the questions, let's go to comments. So again, this is conceptual review.
Sure, I'll start.
Great.
I very much like the way you've handled the comment about the northwest corner on the relocation of the unit. I think that works well for both the mass of the building and the interest on that north facade. Other than that, this is getting very close to me supporting it, and I appreciate how the blue flowering jacaranda and the echium might be picked up in the window frames for a nice blend of landscape and architecture. Thank you.
Mr. Olson?
That's just a couple of compliments. First of all, I think the landscape presentation is very understandable, and I appreciate coloring it in that form. It's easy to follow. Thank you. The other compliment I've already given is it does seem neighborhood friendly, and I appreciate the efforts you have made since the last meeting here to improve some of the things that we talked about, and I think they're successful. So I think this is ready to go to the next step.
Okay. Mr. Black?
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's a very handsome project, and the landscape is well developed, and I look forward to seeing the final plans. Thank you.
Vice Chair Six?
Chair Moore, thank you. Yes, very nice responses to our concerns. Gorgeous project. As I said in my questions, maybe the podium color could be deeper and therefore contrast with the sandstone finesse around the center red unit. I understand your concern about the different railings. Perhaps maybe there's the white railings on the building, and then there is the dark railings above the podium, and then maybe around the corner where you're on the grass on Via Lucero, it's back to Pickett. But just a suggestion. But I would not be making a comment to be concerned about variations other than something like that, minimal. And then just to help out, perhaps, if Chair Moore was concerned about the fourth unit, maybe another yet quirk in the roof lines, maybe a Dutch gable would be something that could be fun and different. But other than that, beautiful project.
Thank you.
Ms. Anderson?
I don't really have much to add. It's kind of getting into details, but I would study looking at flat roofs on that northwest corner instead of sheds and see if it's possible to add landscaping to that corner. Regarding the railing, I think the architectural language should be just consistent with where you do picket fence and where you don't, and what colors. So maybe the fencing is one, and maybe the railing for the balconies is different, but I would just consistent language. Otherwise, I think the mass bulk and scale, I think you've gone through iterations that have really responded to comments, and that's all I have to say.
Okay, yeah, I think at this level, conceptual level, you responded well to the concerns. I think moving forward, it's kind of getting into the details about, where some of my questions were leading, and, so, I don't have much else to add at this point. Still need a motion. Okay.
So, Mr. Chair, I would make a motion for indefinite continuance back to the board to entertain at that time project design approval with the following comments: that the project is very handsome and very neighborhood friendly. Number two, that the applicant has addressed the board's previous concerns very admirably. Three, to consider perhaps a darker color at the podium, to have it recessed behind the shadows of the vines and other vegetation. Number four, look at a variation in the railings that are consistent with the architectural application at each place, at each situation. And then no, I won't go there. So I think that's it. And number five, that the landscaping is very sensitively thought out and well developed, and appreciate the saving of the podocarpus trees on the corner. I think that's it.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? No? Okay, let's take our vote.
Thank you, Chair Moore.
Would you repeat the motion to us, please?
Okay, if we could repeat the motion.
Of course. To continue indefinitely with the following comments. Number one, the project is very handsome and neighborhood friendly. The applicant has addressed the board's previous concerns very admirably. The applicant shall consider a darker color at the podium and to recess the shadows of the vines and vegetation.
In order to.
In order to, thank you. And then number four, to consider variation of the railings that are consistent with the architectural application at each place, and that the landscaping is very thought out and developed and appreciated, and appreciate the trees, the hype, I can't say that type of tree,
Podocarpus.
Podocarpus tree at the corner.
Okay, is that how we want it?
Yep.
Okay, let's take our vote.
Thank you, Chair Moore. I'll take the roll call vote. Chair Moore?
Yes.
Vice Chair Six?
Yes.
Board Member Anderson?
Yes.
Board Member Black?
Yes.
Board Member Noon? Oh, I'm sorry, is absent. And Board Member Olson?
Yes.
Board Member Whalen?
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
off the record, I wanted to say I really appreciate your comment about being neighborhood friendly. That's what the Housing Authority strives to achieve. So if you got it, we really do appreciate it. So,
We're a little
Okay.
sensitive to that because some of these projects haven't been neighborhood friendly, so.
it was interesting.
Okay, well, let's close our meeting for today. Thank you very much.